You know, it's interesting. I was giving a gold talk earlier, and we are firmly in a gold bull market, and there was like 10% of the people in the gold room, and we are firmly in a uranium bear market, and this room is full. I don't know what's going on. Let's talk about uranium for a little bit. So I am a uranium bull. It might not sound like it for the next 5 minutes, but then I'll do some cheerleading. These are my websites. Outsider Club, that's a financial newsletter publication that has a bunch of different newsletters tied to it. Outsider Club's like 250,000 people. We have a bunch of paid newsletters that span the gamut of the market, from dividend aristocrats, really safe stuff, S&P stuff, all the way to speculating in private placements and the companies out here in the exhibit hall. And I do a lot of speculating personally and have raised capital for a couple companies here and there, and have been really a uranium bull for the past 5, 6, 7 years, have talked about it frequently, have given picks. You might have heard me talk about companies like Fission Uranium or Sky Harbor, who was just on the stage. I also own Resource Stock Digest with a partner. His name is Gerardo Del Real. We tell the stories of a select group of junior mining companies that we like and oftentimes have personally invested in, and we help them tell their story digitally. 90% plus. Hasn't gone anywhere since gold started going up in 2016. It doesn't matter what the Kazakhs have done. It doesn't matter what secondary supply has been eroded. It doesn't matter what China is building. Nothing really matters. Mr. Dines would say, don't think, look. Look. It's bad. It's this bad. The only company producing uranium in America laid off 1/3 of its workforce last week. 1/3. They haven't got any guidance on the Section 232 petition that was supposed to come in July that was then delayed. We got a news story in Bloomberg in October or November, I think it was, that said, yeah, they're going to help out the industry, but we don't know what that help is going to look like. Maybe a strategic reserve, maybe some direct purchases, but we'll get back to you after impeachment, basically. And we haven't heard anything since then. And so companies that were essentially reliant on that decision as a catalyst or a spark have not had that materialize. And so the only mill in the States that takes uranium feed has just laid off 27 or 28 people. Warren's coming up next. I like Warren, but he just took uranium out of the name of his company. This is bottom stuff, folks. It's ALX Resources now. It's not ALX Uranium. This is what happens at the bottom. I'll start cheerleading now. Nuclear is the safest form of electricity generation we have ever seen as a species. It's killed less people than solar panels. It's killed less people than wind turbines. It doesn't generate any fossil fuel emissions, which I heard we're in the market for power sources that don't generate any emissions. And so people are going to start realizing this. We've sort of seen it bits and pieces over the past 2, 3, 4 years. There was an op-ed, I think last year, 2018, in the New York Times with some liberal scientists saying we can't beat climate change without nuclear energy, and that's all very true. It's the only source of base load that doesn't put the dirty stuff in the air, and so we're going to have to rely on it in some capacity, whether that's in the traditional capacity that we know, or whether that's in small modular reactors, or something that scares me a little bit, if we do fusion, right? I mean, it's been in the headlines for the past 3 or 4 months, like we're getting serious about testing it, and so great for humanity, probably bad for my portfolio. Germany made a mistake, right? So this is what I mean by the world is going to wake up. Like, there was just a study recently that said by keeping their nuclear plants offline after Fukushima, they had contributed to killed thousands of people from the emissions. We're talking about pulmonary diseases, respiratory illnesses, right? Because what are they burning in Germany? They shut down their nukes and they're burning lignite, for crying out loud. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And so now we're starting to quantify this and saying, oh yeah, your solar capacity is up 600%, but you're paying the highest rates in Europe. And so they're going to come to Jesus, as are other countries. So Japan didn't start a single nuclear reactor last year. 15 of the 27 that applied have been approved, but only 9 have restarted. And similar to Germany, they're burning natural gas and oil, right? So they're going to have to start thinking about their emissions. How are we going to meet our Paris Agreement things that we agreed to reduce our emissions, right? Because we can't do it without a baseload source that's emission-free, and that only one is the thing that this whole workshop has been dedicated to today. And so now we're starting to see it. This is last month, Christmas Eve, right? Jesus was about to be born, and we're writing about uranium. Europe looks to nuclear in the face of climate change. Well, of course they do, because they have to, right? And so you're seeing this article was about a sea change in public opinion where Belgium has gone flip-flopped, and this is like the people now, they're taking, these are polls, like Pew Research or whatever, saying, yes, we want nuclear, yes, we need nuclear, where we didn't 5 years ago. You know, same in Netherlands, et cetera. And so it's a slow awakening, but gosh, if you know, we're talking about this, you know, make or break point in climate change, and we got to reduce emissions by X in X amount of years, like all the logic is there, and yet the uranium stocks just don't go anywhere. But it's all logically lined up, and it's going to happen. So let's talk about it a little bit more. And so here we have Warren, right? In October, she said, we're going to abandon all the nukes. And then somebody put her in a private room and said, we can't do that. And then in December, she said, we're going to keep the nukes. Because we have to, right? And so these people are going to start to realize this, right? We need to keep some. That's what she said. But 2 months before, she said we were going to get rid of them. And then this is the New Yorker. This is a liberal rag. Is nuclear power worth the risk? And look at the conclusion. It may be time. Sorry, I don't have a laser. It may be time to reconsider. It may be time to reconsider. The date here is 2 days before Jesus. But when? But when? And so the conclusion of this talk, and I'll get you guys back on track because Jordan took some of my time. It's about the utilities. Nobody's buying the product. You have a product and nobody's buying it. You don't make any money. You need a customer, right? When are the customers going to come back? I don't know. People smarter than me are doing some analysis. Here's Morningstar. I'm going to read. Low uranium prices since Fukushima have left the project cupboard bare. We know this. The low prices don't beget investment, exploration, etc. And they're going to lead to a supply deficit in the next 3 years now. We're talking 3 years away now. Gosh, man, my gray's going to be more by the time I sell my uranium stocks. And these shortfalls should begin to affect price negotiations. And since they secure 3 to 4 years ahead, and we think that the next time they really have to come back is 2026, unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that it might take 3 more years to make some money from uranium. Here's UXC. I know they might not be the most reliable source. I've talked to people about that, but you got to go with what you get sometimes. This is what people read when they Google for uranium. And so we got to talk about what UXC is saying. They're saying the same thing. The Kazakh cuts didn't really do anything. They're expected to take effect next year. Requirements for reactors flat for the next 5 years, the next half decade, but then significant growth in 2026. And that's what I was saying. If these consumers, uranium consumers, need to contract 3 years ahead, that puts it in the 2023, 2022 time range. And what's going to happen is these contracts are going to have to be negotiated at higher prices. You've probably heard me give this spiel before, and I'm sure the companies that talked about it, that were on the stage earlier and after me, will talk about it as well. But at $25 a pound uranium, nobody can pull it out of the ground. And so when these contracts are negotiated and signed, they're going to have to be at a much higher price. I think the previous slide, what did it say there? $65 a pound, whatever the marginal price is, right? $50, $60, $65 a pound, which, by the way, is a 100% increase from where the spot price is trading right now. And so that's all I got about uranium. I'm sorry it was a little bit bearish at the beginning, but it's going to take some time, I think, to work through the rest of the secondary supply and get these utilities to come to the table, because without the utilities in the market, I really don't see any other catalyst out there. I will say I continue to be a uranium bull. I will say I continue to hold my uranium equities. I just helped Sky Harbor raise some money. I haven't sold a share of Fission. I own a chunk ton of Azarga uranium. They just got their last contention resolved with the Nuclear Energy Regulatory Commission for their Dewey Burdock project in South Dakota. That's officially the stamp of approval saying, okay, you guys can go ahead and sell this project or develop it. I know there's interest in that project. I know other people tried to get it before URZ got it. And so I think that project will be sold. I hope not here at the bottom of the market. Maybe we'll get some Cameco shares for it or something where we'll get to enjoy some further upside. But pick your shots, folks. Talk to the companies here. There's quality ones that have been on the stage all day. I just shouted the name of 3 of them. And best of luck with your uranium investments. Thanks for listening.